Hey everyone, welcome back to Skill School. I'm ScytherGreen from Server 73, and today we're looking at one of those skills you've probably scrolled past in the Tower of Knowledge and wondered if it's worth picking up: Magical Shield. It's an elite passive that reduces magical damage taken, and on paper that sounds useful. But the question is whether it actually holds up in real battles, or if your soul crystals are better spent elsewhere. Let's break it down and see exactly what you're getting before you decide to unlock it. Magical Shield is a passive skill that automatically reduces the magical damage your immortals take during battle. It doesn't require energy or activation, so once equipped, it stays active from start to finish. At level 1, it cuts incoming magical damage by 9%. Each upgrade raises that value by 3%, reaching a maximum of 30% reduction at level 8. The effect applies only to magical damage, so it won't help against physical attacks or true damage sources. Because this skill doesn't scale with stats or trigger any additional effects, its value stays fixed. That makes it predictable but also limited. What you see is what you get, a flat percentage of reduced spell damage and nothing more. It's easy to understand but very situational, and how useful it feels depends entirely on the kind of enemies you're facing. Now let's talk about what it takes to actually unlock and upgrade Magical Shield. The skill becomes available at level 26 and costs 8,000 soul crystals to unlock. From there, each upgrade adds another step up in price, starting small but climbing quickly toward the higher levels. You can see the full cost table on screen. Taking Magical Shield all the way to level 8 costs a total of 122,720 soul crystals. That's quite a lot for a skill that only reduces one type of damage. Since it doesn't directly boost offense or contribute to team synergy, most players will find it hard to justify that investment unless they're building very specific counters against magic-heavy opponents. If you're on a budget or still building your first few main skills, this one should probably stay on the shelf for now. Now that we've covered the basics, let's look at who can actually make use of Magical Shield in battle. If you're considering it for a defensive setup, there are a few Immortals who can make reasonable use of it. The effect isn't strong, but it can still reduce some pressure from magic-heavy teams. Starting with Yi Sun-shin, his skill Guard of Devotion already reduces all incoming damage for a few seconds. Adding Magical Shield gives him a small, permanent layer of protection when his ultimate isn't active. It's not a huge boost, but it helps smooth out the damage between his ability cycles, especially against spell-focused enemies. Charles the Great also gains a slight benefit. His Terra Shield creates a barrier that absorbs incoming damage, and reducing magical damage helps that barrier last a bit longer. The improvement is minor though, and players often get better results from skills that boost shield power or healing instead. Arthur can equip Magical Shield too, but the benefit is mixed. His Wind Ruler skill already cuts damage and reflects part of it back, so adding more reduction doesn't change much in practice. Still, if you're using him in fights dominated by mages, it can help him stay up a little longer. Overall, Magical Shield can be used on any defensive immortal, but it's more of a backup layer than a priority pick. So if you decide to give Magical Shield a try, what other skills should go with it? Magical Shield is flexible, so the best pairings depend on your lineup and what you're trying to counter. It isn't tied to any single combo, but it works best with skills that offer some extra sustain or help your immortal stay active longer in battle. For example, if you're running Arthur, Wind Protection and Adrenaline Rush are both reasonable choices. Wind Protection increases dodge rate and occasionally adds a shield when attacks are avoided. Since Arthur already reduces and reflects damage with Wind Ruler, having a chance to dodge adds another small layer of survival. Magical Shield then helps smooth out the damage during the times when Wind Protection isn't active. It's not a perfect fit, but the two together make Arthur slightly harder to bring down. Adrenaline Rush can also work since Arthur attacks often enough to trigger its energy gain regularly. More energy means he can use Wind Ruler a little more often, which indirectly keeps his defensive cycle going. The effect is small, but it helps his uptime stay steady over longer fights. Overall, Magical Shield doesn't change how any immortal plays, but it can round out a defensive build by softening magic damage between skill triggers. So how do we know Magical Shield is working? Because Magical Shield is a passive skill, you won't see it listed in the battle report. The best way to confirm it's working is to compare two fights, one with the skill equipped and one without. In this example, Bjorn is taking damage from Hammurabi, whose main source of magic damage comes from the final judgment. In the unequipped report, Hammurabi's skill dealt around 544,916 total damage across 4 hits, while his normal attacks contributed 55,613. When Magical Shield is equipped, the same skill drops to 343,750 damage, which is roughly a 37% reduction, even though the number of hits stays the same. Meanwhile, Hammurabi's normal attacks increase slightly to 67,424, which is normal physical damage variance from extra swings and random rolls. This drop in the final judgment's damage confirms that Magical Shield's doing exactly what it should, reducing incoming magical damage without affecting physical hits. If you want to test it yourself, make sure both battles use the same lineup and run for the same amount of time, then compare the magic skill damage between them. A lower number there, with normal attacks staying about the same, is clear proof that the skill's active. Now that we've seen how Magical Shield works, let's place it on the skill school tier list. Magical Shield lands firmly in D tier. It works exactly as described, but that doesn't make it worth your investment. The effect is too narrow to justify using one of your 3 skill slots, and a 30% reduction to magical damage just isn't enough to change the outcome of most fights. There are many other defensive skills that provide stronger or more flexible benefits. Magical Shield falls short in comparison, and upgrading it only raises the reduction slightly while consuming a large number of soul crystals. If you already own it, it can fill a temporary gap early on, but once you unlock better options, there's no real reason to keep it equipped. So that's Magical Shield. It does exactly what it says, but not much beyond that. The reduction is consistent, and the test results prove it works, yet the payoff just isn't enough to compete with stronger defensive skills. If you're short on soul crystals or still building out your first few key passives, this one isn't worth the cost. It's more of a curiosity than a core skill, useful only in very specific cases where you're dealing with pure magic damage. For most players, those resources will be better spent elsewhere. But what about you? Have you ever found Magical Shield useful in your battles? Or did it end up being one of those skills you tried once and never touched again? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in Norheim.